So in this video I want to talk about a skill which is probably the most important that the regenerative gardener has to have when planning a garden, but also when improving and managing our own gardens. We need to be able to do this, which is observing wild or untended environments and researching what we see and learn from it. Here, this is the bank of a river. There's a road on the other side. You can see the cars. And I'm observing this natural association of plants, guild of plants. Here we have some Elymus repens. This is kind of kutch grass, which has got rhizomes that go shallowly and populate things. That's a bad weed in the garden. But it suffers from shade, so you see where it's more shaded, like on that side, there's less of it. Then there's this comfrey, which is a spreading comfrey. It's got tubers, like potatoes, and they move around, which is not the best type of comfrey in a garden, because obviously it spreads way too fast and it becomes a weed. Like you see here, it likes water and moisture, and it can tolerate a bit of shade in the summer. And here, this is an Artemisia, probably vulgaris, common mugwort, again plant that loves water, especially in the winter. There's a buttercup there, and then there's a different type of buttercup which is called ranunculus. There you go. This is relative of many garden plants that have been developed from it. And then I saw some chickweed. There you go. And this plant is interesting. I had to look this up because it looks different from other chickweeds that I've seen in the past, but I looked at it and I knew this was edible. I don't know why, it's hard to ask why. I knew by the looks of it, this is an edible plant. And our brains, especially if we have learned to observe and cross-reference our intuition with facts and stuff that you find in books and things, we kind of awaken, in my experience, we reawaken the ability of seeing things and recognizing whether they're good or bad for you. This is something that animals, like Roger, do all the time. Domesticated ones less well than wild ones. They know what's good and bad for them just by looking at it without reading a book. And so it's interesting how I knew that thing, even though without knowing that it was a chickweed, was edible. And here you see how it actually spreads. It spreads like that, like a normal chickweed. And another one that I saw, not very abundant, is cleavers. Okay. So why is it important to be able to observe this? Well, for many reasons. The first one is I know now that these plants can work very well together. They all come up when the trees don't have any leaves on yet. Okay, that's there's some shrubs which are in leaf, especially Laurus nobilis, which is bay leaf. But most of the trees don't have leaves, so there is light coming in here, especially in the evening. Sorry, yeah, in the morning and the first part of the afternoon, actually, the other way around. And so in spring they like having some light. They obviously like a lot of water. They can work well together. You'll see when they flower, they will all find their own times to flower and spaces to flower. And also, I know that they like these conditions. They can do well under this type of trees. And also in time, I might look at the soil here and see how they change it. This was disturbed soil. There were trees here that were cut down because they were about to fall into the river, and then that could block the river and cause floods in the towns nearby. So there was a lot of tree felling here, and as a result these plants probably got a stimulus to grow more vigorously and spread more. Then also we see that in some patches where there's more light or more different soil conditions, you have more kutch grass and less comfrey. Here in this corner, obviously a lot of biomass, perhaps some excess nitrogen and calcium, and there you go, you've got some nettle only in this patch, you see. And there's obviously also there a kind of sinkhole, and so that's where fertility accumulates. When it rains a lot, it sinks there and it can't get out anymore, so there you have your nettle as well. Whereas as we go up this, there's another valley there if you want, and there's more nettle there. Here you see rubus, or brambles, coming out of the forested bit. Again, brambles are, I've said it in another video, the colonizers of new ground, which the wood sends ahead to prepare the conditions for the trees. And here you can see obviously the trees are a little bit back and they're advancing thanks to the brambles, which prepares the ground. Here we have sambucus, or elderberry, another plant that loves water. and is very fast to generate. Yeah, there must have been some gardening situation at some point, or perhaps a hut for hunters and things. But there you go. So this is a very interesting thing to look at, beautiful to look at, important to learn about what plants do in different situations and how plants can work together, how they improve the soil they're on. I'm not going to put my hands in this, but it's quite silty soil here, but I'm sure these guys over 3-4 years will make it very, very soft and organic. And here you can see it's sticking out that it's been raining, but it's silty, and the leaves are being broken down by the activity underneath. Look at this beautiful soil underneath. It can be sticky if it's exposed to the elements, but if it's covered like this, so this is an example of no dig done in nature. You know, it allows seeds to germinate, see, without being disturbed, and the soil remains nice and crumbly. And this stuff, if it was in the sun for a long time, it would become very compacted. Okay, so that's it. Observation.